around 10 to 12 grams and size of walnut. It have got different important function. It helps in the control of urine, and the prostatic part is again work as a sphincter, and it produce the part of the semen. As you know, there are three part of the semen, and one is important. Prostatic portion is produced by the prostate, and it also produce these prostatic specific antigen. And regarding the zones of prostate, you must be aware that there are three zones of prostate. One is called transitional zone, second is called central zone, and third is called peripheral zone. As you can well see here, that this is the transitional zone, which is present periurethral, and this zone is involved in benign prostatic hyperplasia and produce the symptoms of obstruction. While the second zone is called central zone, this surrounding the transitional zone, and third zone is called peripheral zone, which represent the peripheral part. And you must be aware that the peripheral zone is the part which is concerned with the malignancy. And some basics: the prostate is being supplied by the internal iliac artery, inferior vesical, middle rectal, internal peroneal artery. The venous drainage is going into the periprostatic plexus of veins, and the very important thing is that this plexus goes directly and got the communication with the vertebral venous plexus, and this vertebral venous plexus is starting from the base right up to the skull. And that is the main reason of the spread of the prostatic malignancy to the vertebral column directly. And this communication, because it is valveless, so there is no problem with the blood and the tumor emboli to spread via that route and get deposited in the vertebra, especially the lumbar vertebra. The parasympathetic innervation is through the nervi regentis S2 to S4, while sympathetic fibers are from L1 to L2, while the pudendal nerve is supplying the striated sphincter fibers of the bladder, and the periprostatic sphincter is under control of the alpha adrenergic fibers. And the lymph drain is via pituitary and internal area group of lymph nodes. And now should start the clinical side. The BPH is described as the increase in the number of the stromal epithelial cells in the periurethral area of the prostate. In the periurethral area of the prostate, resulting in urinary symptom. And it's a part of the aging process, and sometimes a few people are genetically predisposed, and they got early indication for surgery. And if you really take a history, there are people who are prostate run in their families, and every time in every generation they require the surgery, while in few other families there is no genetic predisposition. So these things are also important. Before I start the pathophysiology, you should know basic terms. BPH, previously called as the benign prostatic hypertrophy. This is not hypertrophy, but as you know, the hypertrophy is the increase in size of the cell. But this is true hyperplasia, because there is an increase in number of the cell, both stromal and epithelial. They also called as BPE. I think slightly called because sometimes we can't decide whether it's benign or malignant. You continue to call as the benign prostatic enlargement. It's safe to say. And regarding symptomatology, it can divide as a BOO. BOO means bladder outflow obstruction, and sometimes called as prostatism. Prostatism is defined as the symptom complex due to the mass related in the urethral mass stay around urethra and producing increased urethral resistance. And but this is not true only with the enlarged prostate. This can happen with the higher urethral resistance, can happen with the urethral stricture, and it can happen in a female patient, with lower testosterone symptoms. So prostatism is not the correct definition. Is the correct way to express the symptomatology. Nowadays, the lower urinary tract symptom are supposed to be the best way to express the symptomatology of enlarged prostate. Few words regarding the androgen, the aging, and the androgen plus estrogen. The normal androgen in the adult life is doing what? Is cause the prostatic cell proliferation as well as cell death. But as the age proceed in 60s and 15s plus, what happened? There is competitive deficiency of the estrogen, and there is increase in amount of estrogen. This may be due to the conversion of androgen into estrogen because of obesity, the role of the aromatase. There are many factors which can lead to increase in the estrogen level. The higher ratio of the estrogen versus androgen in the peripheral blood causes the increased sensitization of the androgen. This sensitization do what? That it will make the prostate more sensitive to the low level of the androgen, and but this androgen can only produce the increased cellular proliferation without cell death. That is the main cause of the increase in size of the prostatic gland. So the etiology is not completely understood. The concept of the aging versus the estrogen and progesterone, there are many studies are going on to know the association, but still not very much clear, and the postulation which I have given to you probably may be correct. A few words regarding how did the activation takes place. See this photograph carefully. When the circulating testosterone come here, this is the stromal prostatic cells, and this is epithelial cells. See how did the testosterone from the periphery from here enter into the stromal cells, where there is an enzyme called 5-alpha reductase. Here is called type 2. This convert the testosterone into 5-hydrotestosterone, which is the active form of the testosterone. And this 5-hydrotestosterone is many times potent. It's 10 times potent than testosterone, and it will produce the receptor binding and cellular proliferation. This is called the autocorine action of the testosterone, because this is acting on the same cell. When this activate here dihydrotestosterone, this can diffuse back to the epithelial cells here. Here it activate the epithelial cell proliferation, and this mode of transmission is called the paracrine, because the testosterone which activate here will diffuse to the peripheral cells, and this is called paracrine way of the hormone action, and this will again activate the epithelial cell. On the same side, the peripheries like skin and liver cell do activate this testosterone into 5-hydrotestosterone, and this will come via the blood and can diffuse either here or here directly, and can cause the proliferation of the cells, both epithelial and as well as the both epithelial cells as well as the stromal cells. Okay, and you can see here that there are only type 2 receptor are present. The 5-alpha reductase type 2 is present in the stromal cells, while type 1 and type 2 are present on the peripheral cells. This concept should be important when we discuss about the drugs which are acting on the both receptor, and there are few drugs acting on the one receptor. Okay, so a class of the drug called as the 5-alpha reductase inhibitor. When we discuss that drug, then we'll again discuss then how did the type 1 and type 2 receptor are activated. Okay, so come to the presentation. Then the BPH usually happen after 50 years of age, and there is no direct relation between degree of the prostatic enlargement and severity symptom. As I said earlier, prostatism is being replaced by the lower unit tract symptom. These lower unit tract symptoms are divided into obstructive as well as irritative. The obstructive symptoms include hesitancy, poor flow, intermittent steam, dribbling, sense of the incomplete evacuation and the about to retention, and then irritative mean frequency, nocturia, urgency and urgent incontinence, nocturnal aneurysm. Please remember, these symptomatology are not the retention. Retention is not supposed to be one of the symptomatology. It's the end result of the enlarged prostate. Okay, when patient come to you. But what happened here in our society, most of our patients come presented as retention. We are unable to detect them at this stage. Okay, and acute urinary retention is the end result of this symptom. This is not the symptomatology, but as I said earlier, it is a usual presentation in our setting. And you can see here how did the enlarged prostate. If it is a normal size, this is okay, normal lumen of urethra. But it's bigger in size. Then what happened when you try to pass urine, and it compress the urethra and resulting in the lower urinary symptom or sometimes retention. There is a score called the International Prostatic Symptom Score, briefly called as IPSS. And IPSS is a questionnaire, and it have got the 35 marks. There are 7 questions in the IPSS, and it have got the each question have got the 5 number. The question are like that. Whenever one question is asked, if we have same symptomatology in 5 times in a month, then this will give the 5 marks. Otherwise, you may got number from 0 to 7, and I will briefly discuss these questions. So this is a look of the question: the incomplete emptying, frequency, intermittency, urgency, and weak stream, straining, and nocturia. They are all divided into 5. Okay, if someone has got this symptomatology happening in 5 times in a month, then the number is 5. If we had once in a month or twice in a month, then this number accordingly 1 and 2. Okay, I would like to tell you a story to understand that thing. That's 7 symptomatology. Okay, these just imagine an old person like your nana or your grandfather or grandfather is there in their at home. So just imagine his activity, like he's sitting in a table and doing some writing work. Suddenly he got the desire to urinate. This is called urgency, and this is symptomatology. Okay, then he rushed to the toilet and sit down on the commode and try to pass urine, but he cannot start his urination in time. Okay, this is called the straining or hesitancy. When his urine start, he continue to have the weak stream. He have to pass urine with difficulty and with the weaker stream. This is called weak stream. And during the urination, he got the symptom of the जैसे पेशाब आ रहा है रुक रहा है, so this is called intermittency. Okay, then after intermittency, then he finishes urination, he got the feeling that his bladder is not still empty. This is called incomplete emptying. After urination, he come back and sit down and start his work. Then he again have a problem to go to the toilet in the daytime. This is called frequency. Anything more than five times in a daytime is called frequency. Similar thing which he has the same symptomatology at night time, which is called nocturia. So I think you can better understood how these 7 questions are asked and how what is the best way of asking them. Okay, and this is called International Prostate Symptom Score. And if it's 0 to 7, this is called the mild. If it's 8 to 19, this is called moderate, and it's 20 to 35, this is called severe. You see, this have got the diagnostic as well as the therapeutic importance, because if you got mild symptom, you can be controlled with the watchful waiting and with the fluid control. You got the moderate symptom, then you need some medicine like alpha blocker. If you got a severe symptom, probably you may need something more than the medicine. You may require the surgical intervention. Okay, so please remember these 0 to 7, 8 to 19, and 20 to 35. Please remember 7 and 19. You can easily remember all these, because 0 to 7, one ahead, like 8 to 19, and then 19 to 35. 20 to 35 is a severe symptomatology. There is another part of this IPSS is called bothersome score, which is the quality of life score. Okay, so you can see here the 0 to 6. You can see here 0, 0, 0 mean delighted, and this is terrible. Okay, suppose there are people who had the symptomatology, and the question is asked like that: if you are supposed to spend rest of your life with the same urinary condition, how did you feel like? Because sometimes the nocturia, I personally observe, the nocturia is very terrifying in most of the patients, because if you are working in the office and you have to wake up 4 5 times a night, you can't sleep well, and then although your total score may be less, but your nocturia will increase your bothersome, and somebody who got the score a bit lower side but got the very high bothersome may require early surgical intervention. I hope you can understood what I want to teach you. So regarding diagnosis, you have to do the trans abdominal ultrasound, and to see the size of the prostate, to see the bladder changes like diverticulation and the circulation. Okay, and you see the kidney to think about the hydrourethral adenomyosis, and the to see the pre and post the residual volume. If residual volume is more than 350, probably that's indication for surgery. You should know that transrectal ultrasound is better than the transabdominal ultrasound. This is regarding the ultrasound. Then you should do PSA done. PSA is normal is 0 to 4 nanogram per ml. You have to differentiate with urethral stricture, carcinoma prostate, carcinoma bladder calculi, UTI, and prostatitis, and neurogenic bladder. So regarding management of the enlarged prostate, there are 3 heads. One is watchful waiting, medical treatment, and surgical treatment. Watchful waiting is a treatment option, as I said earlier. When the IPSS is 1 to 7, there are mild symptom and the minimal bother, then you have to life changes, and that include the decreased coffee and alcohol, because caffeine and alcohol are both diuretic effect, and they do not take large amount of fluid over a short period of time, and urge as you need. You have to every 2 to 3 hours you may go to the toilet. Maintain normal fluid. Do not restrict fluid, because restriction of the fluid will lead to your problem with the kidney. Avoid bladder irritant like artificial sweetener, carbonated fluid like cold drinks, and the limit nighttime fluid. In the medical treatment, you got the alpha blocker, you got the 5-alpha reductase inhibitor, and you got combination therapy. And you can see, as I tell you earlier, 5-alpha reductase inhibitor are working to decrease or minimize the uptake of the testosterone at the prostatic level, so decrease the size of the prostate. And there are combination therapy, that is the combination of alpha and the alpha blocker as well as 5-alpha reductase, and each have got the maximum effect. And there are certain herbal treatment which are working along same line. So the indication for surgical treatment are failed medical therapy, the failure of the trial without catheter, recurrent UTI, hematuria, stone formation, the renal function high creatinine, and post-void residual more than 350 ml. These are the indication for planning for the possible surgery. And regarding surgery, we had the TRP, laser, TUMP, and tuna. And the surgical option are transvaginal, retropubic, and perineal route. TRP is the gold standard, and is one of the nice procedure. We use an electrical knife. You can see here, you use the knife and you cut the excess prostatic tissue here, and it is still is the gold standard, although there are so many changes that happen in the type of treatment option. You can see here, it cut the enlarged prostate. Ultimately, you got this kind of the prostate left behind, and with the restoration of the flow, and so patient can urinate easily. And we use irrigating fluid in the TURP. The characteristics are: it should be isotonic, electrically inert, non-toxic, transparent, inexpensive, non-hemolytic, and non-metabolized. We use glycine and 5% dextrose water in TURP. But there are certain complications of TURP that include hemorrhage, TUR syndrome, bladder perforation, and the UTI, epidermal orchitis postoperatively. There are many complications. And there are minimal invasive method. One is called TUNA, that is stand for transurethral needle ablation, TUMT, which is the microwave therapy. And you can see here the special catheter is used, which is called the two needle, which pass in the within the enlarged prostate, and this tube maintain a 40 degree centigrade temperature here, urethral temperature, and then while the prostate temperature is 100 degrees centigrade, and the radio frequency energy is released here, and we just coagulate this prostate. While here you can see this is the microwave therapy. Here we use a specific device which coagulate this part of the prostate, and this is called TUMT, but they are not used very commonly. The conventional surgical method, you can see here the retropubic, perineal, and the suprapubic method. The retropubic, we open up from here and goes behind the bladder, hit the prostate and take it out. And this was called the Millen's procedure. Then the perineal procedure, we approach the hair, least commonly performed for benign prostate, but more commonly for the carcinoma prostate when you do the radical prostatectomy. Suprapubic, one of the more commonly open use. We do abdominal incision, go suprapubically into the via the bladder transvasically and operate. Thank you very much.